today we're gonna go through the questions that you guys gave us in one of my stories, where I asked you, what do you fear the most when you're actually going through a big change, or you're going through a big decision to a change. So today we're here with Monika to talk about this, and we hope that this gives you something to think about and to work on.
Well, first of all, it's great to talk about this here in this context. You know, I love talking with you and working with you, and I think this is such an important topic. Like, fear is omnipresent. Right now, I feel like most people are constantly confronted with it, and not only with their own fear, people also absorb the fear of other people. So this is like something that is really hard to struggle with, especially when you want to be courageous and you want to take a next step and you are trying to upgrade your life.
Right.
So I feel this is such an important topic, and I think it's great that we are talking about it today. I'm a coach, a systemic coach, a certified mental health coach and consultant, and a mindset coach. And I'm working with entrepreneurs who are very visionary and passionate and driven, and who want to change something, to do something, and have a very concrete goal, but don't know exactly how to get there, while keeping their ease and their cool and doing it in the best way possible. So this is what I do. Fear is a constant in this work. So I get that. And I have my own experience because my parents were also entrepreneurs. And they were, of course, back then when they were entrepreneurs, this is like 30 years back, they didn't have the support that we can have now. We have YouTube, Instagram, everything where we can get support by people who are teaching us and showing us how to deal with it. Back then, there was nothing like this. Like, you could read books, but this was very dedicated. You had to know where to look for something. And this was when I started to get invested in psychology, in communication, in how to see things differently, to do things differently.
And if I can add a little thing, I just want to say, Monika is still to this day my mindset coach, because I think you'll always be. And I met you when I was in the biggest change in my life. I just moved from the other side of the world after 5 years living in Canada. I was at the moment where I had to choose, okay, do I go the risky way and I just quit my job and do this seriously and just focus on this, even if I don't know, I have no idea how it's going to go? Or do I stay in my job and just play it safe and don't risk it all? Like, I just did another great big decision of coming back to Italy from Canada after 5 years. Am I ready for this? Am I doing things too quickly or too slow? I had so many questions and I had to answer them myself, but I needed a guide to be able to answer them by knowing exactly what was that I wanted deep inside, and not what was safer or riskier or whatever. So that's why I think Monika is the best person to talk with about fear, because all of my fears I had during this 6 months of my entrepreneurial journey, that, like, without Monika, I don't think I'll be here. And I always say this, not because I couldn't do it myself, but because sometimes pressure and fear is so big that you're just this close to be like, I'm done with this, I give up.
But this is the thing, coaching is not about getting someone to do something for you. It's not at all. It's about having someone in the back who can support you and strengthen you in the times where you kind of feel insecure, or where you feel like you don't know how to proceed. And they are just someone who know how to get to your answer. They are not going to give you the answer, which is because they can't. And this is what people then would often do, like ask many people for advice, get various advice, and still feel a lot of pressure and fear, because any advice that you can get is something that other people have interpreted and come to a conclusion with their own experiences. And this is so hard to accept, that there is no answer that anyone can give you that is going to be as good as the answer that you can give yourself.
Right.
And you did such an amazing job of doing this work. You are so self-aware, and I'm very honored to be your coach. I mean, it was amazing to work with you because you were ready to face this fear. And I think if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't have been able to take the courageous steps that you have taken, to be this honest with yourself as well. I mean, I can remember it sometimes that it was kind of what you thought it would be a mistake, and where you overwhelmed yourself, it proved to be a blessing in the end. But
Yes.
to have the grace and the strength as well to kind of lean into this and say, okay, I can accept it for now.
Yes.
And then work your way through it. It was amazing to work with you, really.
It was a great journey, and I'm so thankful for it. Thank you for this. I would like to go through the actual questions.
Yes.
So the first thing that comes out to the question that you guys gave me in the stories is fear of failure, or fear of not making it. And I just want to read at least one of them. Okay, the fear to not have the results that you want to get to, even if you put your soul and heart into it. Like, okay, I'm gonna do everything, and then nothing changes and I still don't make it, even though I put my heart and soul into it. So this is one of the biggest fear, the fear of failure, of not making it, even though I have all the tools, even though I have everything in my power, not gonna make it anyway. What do you think about that?
Well, I think this is a very complex fear, because this is so much behind what is, do you even know all the things that you need for a journey? I mean, when we started to work with each other, like in December last year, January this year, would you have known what you need, like what you needed now in July back then?
Because my life changed so quickly, and my fears then are easy things now, but now I have other fears. Like it never stops.
Yeah.
I got used to being okay with fear. That's what I feel like.
Yeah. It's about being able to tell yourself, I'm going to be fine, even if I have the fear that I won't be able to deal with something, that I don't know yet how to deal with something in 3 months, in 4 months.
Right.
I will be strong enough, wise enough in 3 to 4 months in order to be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
So this is something where we like to overwhelm ourselves with things that are just not in our control. And I think if you ask, like, what is the fear of failure, of not making it, even though I invest everything that I have right now, sometimes this fear is smart, because what you have right now might not be everything you need in order to reach the goal that you set yourself for in 3 years. But you will learn everything along the journey. And to give yourself the time and to allow yourself this journey of learning and growing is something that we are never taught.
Right.
This is not people's fault that they have this fear. It's not taught. It's like either you know it or you don't. It's like this.
That's true.
Yeah. But the grace to give yourself the time to grow and learn and go step by step is something that we have we even have to guard ourselves, because people always ask questions. So how are you going to do this? Well, I don't know yet. I'm going to do it in 6 months. Why should I be able? I have so much to take care of now.
Exactly. And that's something that we faced a lot, like in the beginning. Like I was worrying about being successful without even having a service. Like it was too far. Like, oh, but what about, I don't know how to do the video lessons. Well, I just started after 6 months of my work, the video lessons right now. And in the meantime, I learned so much. I took so many lessons myself, and I taught so much, and I built a business, and I'm not there. Like I'm just there now. And I was worrying about it 6 months ago. It was just useless to worry about it. You know, I always feel like our fears are because me included, like we already see like, okay, I start a course, I quit my job, I need to be successful tomorrow. I need to. Well, that's not possible. That's how I feel. And that's what I had to learn myself. Like, yes, for me, I guess I was very lucky because success, or I work really hard because success came really fast for me right now. Like the last 6 months have been amazing. I got more than I could wish for. But I didn't have this right away. Like, as we always say, it took 4 years actually to realize I wanted to be a coach, even to
Yeah.
realize what I wanted to teach, to realize to get the skills that I needed to actually get to where I wanted to be. And so, of course, like when I started Vanessa Lau's course and Sunny Lenarduzzi course, and I feel like those are the two courses that changed my life. And it was a lot of money for me because I just moved overseas. I just got a new job, thankfully, in Italy. I didn't know for how long I would have had that job. Another fear that I have, and a lot of my students or potential students have, is like, but I work full time. How can I make this work? You know, like how do I study? How do I actually create my business if I'm already working 8 hours a day? Well, I did that too.
Yeah.
And it is a lot of work, but it just depends on, I guess it's priorities. What I learned is that it really depends on how bad you want this. And then there is going to be a time when you have to choose, okay, do you have still the time to invest in your job, like your job that you don't want anymore, or do you want to leave it and actually believe in this 100% with all of its risks? And that's hard.
That's very hard. And people like to ask, what is the price of, what if I do this? What if I do this, and what is the price that I'm going to pay if I fail? Yes, but what is the price that you are going to pay if you hold back? Can you live with this? Because for me as well, I had a time when I had a huge change in my life, and I'm a lot of my clients as well. And for a lot of them, the point of change came when they were so fed up with themselves for holding back, for making their lives miserable because they settled for less than they knew that they could get. That it was just somehow the pain that they were experiencing because of this was so much bigger than the fear of what the pain could be in a distant future if you didn't get all the solutions until then, which is, there are so many what ifs, and this makes it so impossible to work with it. Because if you have a million what ifs, of course you're not going to be able to act. Of course you're not going to be able to move. So what you need to do is like focus on where you are actually able to act and what you want to do. And if this is like being honest with yourself and taking the next right step, it's not about taking all the right steps in one step. The next right step, which is going to bring you closer to your goal, then do that. The best thing that you can do is to prepare yourself. Like, okay, what do I need? And I think this is where it becomes interesting, with fear of failure and fear of not making it. People are always putting the pressure on themselves. And the most important thing is to think about, how are you going to build a network of strength, a network of support for yourself? Because if you rely totally on yourself, of course, there's going to be so many what ifs and so many steps. But you wouldn't do this if you took on a big project for a company. The company wouldn't give you the whole load of work and everything, and HR and marketing and sales and everything just on your shoulders, and then also give you the kids to take care of the manager, etc. So people, it's like in some parts we make sure to get this support network for our health. For example, of course, we're going to go to a doctor if we are sick. We wouldn't ever put ourselves under the pressure to know exactly what we have to do in order to maintain perfect health until the age of 80. And this is something that can take a lot of this fear away, knowing how to deal with the situation, preparing, what is the fear, what am I fearing that I can trip up with? Like, okay, so what is this fear that I'm not going to make it? Which mistakes could I possibly make? Which inner boundaries, which inner limitations do I have that could like sabotage me as well? And then think beforehand, how is this a reason to not do it, but what will I do if this actually happens? And this is what you did. This is what you did with like working with me, but also like with taking the second job and then gradually slowing down and then dropping it only after you had the feeling that you could actually step into the business. this is like taking the step with Vanessa Laos and Sunny Lenarduzzi's course. They were resources, and we need to get into this habit of developing resources for ourselves.
Yes, and actually, you reminded me of a call we had when I said, "Well, what if I quit and it doesn't work?" And you told me, "But what if it does? Have you ever thought about it?" And honestly, I never thought about it because I was so focused on what if it doesn't work that I never thought about what if it does work. And I feel that switch. That's what changed me. That's what made me look at my vision board every morning and be like, "What if it works?" And it is working. So it kind of makes me emotional to think about that little girl that was like, what if it doesn't work? Because it did work. But of course, it didn't work in so many other situations. So it's not always going to work. Like Canada didn't work, for example, you know? But
thank God. Thank God it didn't
exactly.
work. This is like, in the situation, it hurts like hell. And it's like really disappointing. But afterwards, if you know how to turn the situation around, and if you continue to go your path and like make the best out of it, you are going to get somewhere. And if you constantly ask yourself, what if it works? What if it works? Then any situation can be twisted. And thank God Canada didn't turn out.
Yeah. So I guess the first prompt for this could be like, okay, answer to this question now. Like you already answered to what if it doesn't work, I guess. But I would say on my part as an Instagram coach, I would say as a prompt, tell yourself, like, answer to this question now. What if it does work? That's my prompt. Do you want to give yours?
Well, I would add like what we said, like, what if it doesn't work? Sure, write it down, get it on paper, because like having it stuck in yourself is the worst feeling. But also then dare to ask the question, turn it around. What if it works? And then give yourself the freedom to go as deep into this question as you do with the other question, because normally people are very generous with their time that they spend in their fears, but very kind of hesitant about going into their vision. Take the same amount of time. And then I would also ask, like, what is the price that you could pay if you did it and it wouldn't work out? But what is the price that you are paying for holding back and not doing it? In every thought about doing an investment, you are going to ask, what are the opportunity costs? And the opportunity costs are always, what are we paying by doing this and not that? And you need to ask yourself, what am I paying by holding back and not taking this step?